So here we are at Tamburlaine, or Timberlane, the Great. This is the Battle of Angora. Now, both the leaders here have had really storied histories in military engagements. Tamburlaine, big empire builder, and the other, the Ottoman emperor, sultan, essentially, Bayezid. What happened was, Bayezid was putting pressure on Constantinople. And for whatever reason, Tamburlaine was like jealous about this whole thing, and he's like, Bay, lay off of the Byzantines, you know, it's just wrong. And I guess what happened was the Ottoman decided, you know, that's enough, and we're just gonna break up or whatever. No, they were never very friendly, to tell you the truth, but he took this as a huge insult and marches out to face Tamburlaine. Great. Tamburlaine comes in, lays siege to Ankara, completely outmaneuvering Bayezid. And Bayezid was basically, screwed up. He moves out of the Ankara region in order to engage Tamburlaine further from the city so the harvest doesn't get ruined, and Tamburlaine just slips in and throws a siege up. And now Bayezid comes back and tries to relieve the siege. Now that wouldn't have even necessarily had to happen, but he's been marching left and right all over the place. His army's tired. Anyway, this one's got all kinds of goodies in it, and we'll take a look at some of them. First of all, this is kind of a shame, the color differentiation, but these are the same color, just showing different sides of these. But first of all, you've got these multi-facet units. I think you've got some over here too. Here's one. Those guys flip over and turn into infantry. I've set them all up as cav, so they're going to have mode changes. You got elephants in here, you got wagons, you got a mixture of not really Western technology, but the Serbs, who are kind of, you know, they've got crossbows, for example. But mainly you've got horse archers for both armies. Both armies do have some infantry. And those horse archers, a lot of them can convert over to infantry. What else do you have? You have naphtha throwers. Did I mention elephants? All kind of fun toys. And of course, you throw lots of fun toys in with different types of weapon systems, and you got to have special rules. But they managed to cover everything in just a couple pages. So that's pretty impressive. So what changes for the game? Well, obviously, north-south mappage. I've got this dude. I don't know what to do with him, Mustafa. I'm going to throw him over with Bayezid because he doesn't have a setup space on the map. This is no big deal. I thought I lost a piece. I thought I was missing one of the Tartar pieces. It turned out the game came, it was unpunched. It came with so many extra blanks. Well, on the back of those counters was blank. I didn't see it. It didn't get clipped. I'm lucky it didn't get thrown into my bag of extras. And instead I kept it. I think I may have had a worry, given when I got this and clipped it. It's quite possible that I said, yeah, I want to make sure I don't need those counters for something. Okay, so what else do we have? Like in the one we just played, the Black Prince, double-sided cav units can fire out at any, double-sided archer units, or double-sized archer units can fire out in any direction. Otherwise, though, they still have facing. Okay, this one adds an interesting thing to try to express the mobility of the combat here. What we've seen before is units clash, and then they were out, and there's no pursuit or anything. There's something like pursuit here. So, first of all, During melee combat, if a defensive unit basically takes any route level increases, it immediately retreats, and that includes from 0 to 1. It immediately retreats its route factor at that point. It doesn't seem like that gets rid of the normal route factor. In addition, when somebody routes, you're going to be able to chase them along their path of retreat. And if you eliminate them completely, you can chase them, I believe, up to 3 hexes, starting with the hex they vacated. Mode changes, they're done for free at the end of movement. So, hey, you got a charge you want to make? That's great. Remember, mail and plate armored cav can charge, and yeah, there's some plate armored stuff in here too. And then we also have what? Well, these are plate armored cav, but we have the Janissaries here. They're only in mail, but exceedingly good morale, of course. We also have shit that's like garbage, no armor whatsoever. And a lot of good movement factors here. Okay. The retreat is not your full retreat. It's a retreat equal to your route level, which is important because the faster units, remember, are going to retreat further on their normal retreat movement. All right, the leaders and contingents. So there's 2 Ottoman contingents. You have the Serbs, who are blue, and the rest. And then the Tartars have 3. They have the Tartars themselves, the Indians, and then over here is the Mongol contingent, I guess. I may have the Mongols and the Tartars mixed up. The Indians are the ones with the elephants, though. You can only rally with the leader of the correct contingent. It's a lot easier than dealing with the archery rules for the English in the last couple of battles. Those I think I violated a couple of times. Especially at Bannockburn, I think I did. Okay, so, oh, is that bright light? Oh, that's my neighbor. Okay. I thought one of my lights on my porch went on magically or something, and they don't work. So they may just need bulbs replaced. Yeah, I'm that kind of guy. All right, so what were we at? But the overall commander can rally anything he likes. And this is especially important because the Indians don't have a leader, so only Tamburlaine can rally theirs. In addition, each leader has a special ability. Bayezid gives a 2-point morale bonus to whatever he's stacked with. That means whatever he's with is probably not going to break unless it's got problems. Tamburlaine gives a 1-point morale bonus, but he also gives a 1-point to hit bonus in melee. I don't know which one's going to work out better. All right, elephants. When elephants reach a route level of 3 or 4, they rampage. And that's done. You make a roll to see if they pivot. I think there's only the one elephant. Both sides had elephants present, but anyway. To see if they pivot, and then they run 4 hexes, or until they run into something, and then they attack whatever they hit, whatever they could possibly attack. You can try to kill it after it starts rampaging. If you fail, you might be in trouble. The Syrians have a naphtha contingent. Whenever that melee attacks, it doesn't make a roll to hit or anything. It just causes 2 levels of rout against the enemy, which is pretty potent. The Ottomans have these wagons. Their main purpose is they can either be limbered or lagered. So I guess they provide beer to the troops. When they're giving beer out, they provide a defensive bonus. of 2 points against either missile or melee combat. If they're left, a 2 hex unit would have to completely move into them to get the bonus. 2 1 hex units can move into them to get the bonus, or just 1. If they're completely empty, though, and a Tartar walks over them, even routes over them, they're destroyed. Now, they're not worth anything victory point-wise, but they're obviously a somewhat valuable thing. The victory points are for the size of the unit, or for the quality of the unit. You double the unit if it's a double-size unit. Okay. Leaders are worth 10 in general, except Bayezid's 25, Tamburlaine's 35, and then there's some camps over there, which, if the Ottomans are able to occupy them at the end of the game, they get 4 victory points per camp hex. This is a setup where it looks like the victory points are more or less balanced. -9 to 10 is a draw. There's 10-point differentials for each of the layers of victory. What about the combat chart? What are we looking at? Because this is actually where the game's interesting. By the way, this David Worden, he did something else I like. I don't remember what. Maybe I'll look it up and tell you. But I remember his name from something else. Okay, the bows. We have cavalry armed with the recurve, the longbow in this case. And you can see it's fairly effective, I guess, against crappier troops. The infantry sharpbow actually looks more effective, but you have less mobility, of course. And it depends on what it's against. It's kind of a mix. And then the crossbows, it has more range, though. The crossbows go out 1 to 4 and hit the same no matter what. Melee, plate cav, pretty defensible, except against elephants. Elephants are kind of dangerous. We get differentials here. Double counter unit attacking through front left, front right. Charging gives a -2. Charging with lance gives a -4. I don't remember anything having lances in this. I'm going to have to look in the basic rules there. Rampaging elephant. So I have answers to both my questions, and I thought my camera broke there, which, well, the memory card, but if you end up seeing a big black space before, that's me trying to solve that if I forget to fix it. There are lance markers, which I'll put out, on all the plate and mail armored double counter cavalry units. Obviously, they can only use them in melee mode, the lance. Okay. And if charging, la la la. What do we got here? Worden, yeah. He did Lille, which I like. And I think he's also the designer of this entire system, which is an interesting system. Let's see, because he's mentioned in each of the games. Yeah. So this is his system, and Lille was his as well. And I like Lille a lot. It's not my favorite in the Art of Siege series, but it's pretty decent. So we got a pretty clever guy, but he hasn't done many games, from that SPI crowd at an earlier date than most that I was in. Anyway, I'm gonna swap out my battery, drop some lance markers on the board, and then probably go to bed because I'm pooped. Old Tater Tots move first, and I've chosen to attack only on one flank. I have a bunch of these kind of lighter cav that are moving up and trying to get a numerical superiority in initial firepower. And, one of the big things is I'm trying to stay out of range 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This feels almost like the Ancient Battles Deluxe to make these kind of decisions, but to stay out of range of a possible charge from the Lancer armed cavalry that the Ottomans have. My own If they get too close, I can shoot them. If they don't get too close, well, maybe I can charge them, because they're going to have to react. Over here, I'm going to let the Serbs take the initiative, and I don't particularly want to move those Indians forward. Although, honestly, maybe I want to move that naphtha unit. Where is Tamburlaine, though? Yeah, I can always recover. So let's get these up. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just to get a little bit more weight over on that side, because that thing can cause a lot of damage on its own. All right, we'll start firing, and nobody's melee capable over there. Retreats, because this isn't melee combat, but this is the end of phase. We move over to the Ottomans, and now we're going to see some retreats. And this guy has nowhere he can go for free. He can't make this turn all at once. He'd have to do a pivot, which would cost him his existence. And then at the same time, though, this guy can retreat. Now he's fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Allowed to avoid going over that. I don't know what that dry riverbed does. Costs an extra movement point when normally moving. There, again, isn't a lot of terrain on this. This river is impassable. And then there's the hill. The road's of no importance whatsoever. And over here, this guy starts to climb back up the hill. And then the Ottomans actually get to move. And you can see, I mean, with a bunch of crap, I crushed, not particularly good, but the left flank of the Ottoman army without much work. Could I have done the same on the right? My judgment was no. I could have gotten a little bit of weight on this unit, but then I would have given it an advantage. The Serbs could have mounted up and charged me or something, although wasting your lances on those crap is probably a mistake anyway. Trickier situation than most of the battles we've seen before in terms of trying to actually, you know, have some sort of tactical plan for the battlefield. I'm screening over here, trying to prevent that from getting out of hand. I've moved a janissary here. I'm still hanging back in case the charge comes, then I have a counter charge or whatever. Although these guys are infantry, they can't really charge anyway. But, the question is with the Serbs. I'm outnumbered as the Ottomans. That's part of the problem. So if I split off my Serbs here, there's a couple of options. Either the Tartars can, or those, I don't know which are Tartars, which are Mongols. I guess those are Tartars. Can either concentrate on my Serbs if they run off on their own, or possibly just try to defend against them and avoid them and try to swamp this whole side of the board more heavily. So I'm a little afraid to move my Serbs. I think I'll leave them back. The disadvantage to that is that I'm giving up my advantage of crossbows, which have a little bit of better range. These can be charged, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's move my screen over. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now the question is, do I want a crossbow screen? Well, what am I facing here? These guys aren't very fast. Some of these guys have to go uphill, so they probably couldn't charge anyway. Yeah, if they move forward at their maximum, I'm not in trouble. So I'm going to kind of sit where I am. I'm just going to shift these crossbows a little bit over. And now we actually are going to have some melee here. Saphis of the port. It's not charging. I chose not to charge. I don't want to waste my lands. And everything else is going to be bow fire. And the one melee, we had a bunch of fire combat that was successful, but the one melee did not hit. So we're seeing both sides are going to recoil from that, especially these weak little units. And we go back, and at this point, I think Tamburlaine is going to have to decide whether or not to commit his left flank or just continue the battle over here. What's weird with this is these guys are getting fatigued anyway, according to this. You would want them to be fresh troops at that point in the battle, right? That would be the greatest thing, is if you could hold people off and throw fresh reserves in. The game's not that complicated, and that's kind of a pity. Because it does cover a lot of things very nicely, very simply, but that would be a tough thing to cover simply unless you tracked by the wing, you know, how many times it was used or something. To collapse the Ottoman left here, committed a unit to charge with its lance. We'll see. Well, if it breaks, it doesn't have to use the lance, which is kind of cool. A lot of guys in the back to try to weaken morale. This is really a long shot. But if I can build a, break a hole down here, that's going to cause the Ottomans a whole bunch of trouble. So I'm still holding off back here, center and right. Well, pretty decent, but the charging lance missed. And that's going to not break the enemy quite as much as I want it to. I really wanted to clear out both these units and be able to sweep in. That's not going to happen now. Eastern Cav really don't like to fight. Another charge didn't go off again, 2 through 8. This time the Ottomans doing it. But the bows are doing, fairly well. However, the Ottomans aren't able to reverse the situation that they're in. They were hoping to even things up a little bit. It's looking like this flank is going very badly for us. We're diverting more and more troops to it and pushing our crossbowmen forward. Pretty soon, if this starts to get denuded enough, it's time for the Tartars to come in with other flanks and or the center. Question is whether I want to come in echelon, more or less, by bringing the center in, or if I want to go for a double enfilade type situation. I don't have a plan at this point. It's really a reactive situation, depending on how it gets denuded and what develops out here. I could well come in with the echelon there, but I think it's pretty likely that left wing over there is going to come in. So it won't be a real echelon, that's for sure. Tamburlaine continues to push over here, and everything else moving forward a little bit. Not entirely even. I'm actually pushing a little heavier in the center because it looks like that's where I want to impact first and see if I can weaken those Serbs, who I keep thinking are Scots. And let's see, we had our first successful cav charge. Not really an awesome capability in this game, just because the combat charts are tailored to handle the different troops. That's one thing. Sort of generic mini systems and stuff, they try to handle, I'm thinking things like the ancient system. I don't remember what it's called, but there's a big one that a lot of people play where you buy points and stuff. It doesn't really mesh well when forces are from different eras and there might be significant details that fail in the game. Whereas when you're looking at something like this, or the GBOH games that fit a particular era, there's the capability to tailor the results tables, and especially in this, where the fire combat melee tables are different in each game, and so are the modifiers to morale, to apply better to the situation. The problem with it, of course, is you're kind of walking away from a real series. There's core rules here, but It's no longer yeah, this applies across these battles so that you can start trusting it more or less. Whatever. On to the Ottoman turn. Don't react much, just pushing some of their bows out a little bit. Over here, this mess, it's hard to tell who it's really going for. I mean, it's a big fight now. Point-wise, the Tartars took a big hit. This actually happened a little earlier, but they lost Abu Bakr. He was trying to rally something, it got destroyed in their turn, and the Ottomans moved into that space and captured him. And that's in comparison to these losses. Now remember, the double-sized units count double in this scenario. I don't think they do in any of the others. I'm not sure. I may have just missed that. It's not like I've been counting points. Most of them have been, all of them have been blowouts in points. This is turning out pretty close. On to turn 4. And now we've got pressure building on all sides now. Obviously, this is kind of weakened, but the attacks over here, I was expecting them to do something. They really didn't. I'm trying to swarm and overwhelm the Ottoman command capacity to be able to rally their units so that most of their stuff starts swarming, colliding, all kind of problems like that. And really, in a sense, both sides are kind of doing this with what's going on here. But, yeah. All right. And that brings us over to the Ottoman turn. Here, as we roll into turn 5, the Serbs still playing things pretty cautiously, keeping the crossbowmen, backing them up a little bit so that I can shoot and the enemy garbage can't. And then moving my Serb archer cav, whatever, into place, hoping to get a little bit, well, mainly hoping to protect my flank, but to get a little bit of hits on those things. Some, not enough. But I wasn't going to be able to get enough. Not unless these guys had scored a hit too. If I'd gotten 3 of those guys, that would have done some real damage. But as it is, they're going to swing around and cause me problems. Over here, we cleared out one of them big units, but we lost one ourselves. It was pretty much dead anyway. Trapped back here. And yeah, we really don't know how it's going to develop. Mainly, one of the big questions, how does the center work with a couple of Janissaries sitting there in their wagons, defensible? Pretty much garbage bowmen can walk up and start shooting them, but they're going to have a defensive bonus there. And then there's this elephant, and I've got the naphtha throwers back here. They still haven't come into play, so. There's hunting down their routes, of course, but also continuing envelopment on both sides. With a weak advance in the center, those Janissaries, I basically can't hurt them. So I'm firing my bow here and here because these can't actually be hurt at the range I'm at. Now, they could come out and fight, and actually, no, they're in mail. No, they cannot be hurt. It's 2 through 3 at that range. If I charge forward to the hex next to them where they can swing at me, I can hurt them with the bows, but I'm not about to play that game. Anyhow, what you can kind of see is over here, I got a hit here, there. But for the most part, it looks like the Tartars are not really dealing as much damage as they're taking. They're facing a little bit heavier armor in the Serbs, which they probably should have just left alone. And over here, I don't know why, they're just not, they're just not getting terribly effective shots at. All right, there was no melee, so we go on to the Ottoman side. Bigly exciting thing I should point out before I go further than the route is this guy over here is the naphtha infantry, and As soon as it got up there, I attacked it. Fucking gloves and tweezers shouldn't combine them, yeah. And we finished the bow fire, and we have one successful, only one total melee attack. These guys have to rout. They take a hit. And that gives me the opportunity to advance into here. Now, what's not covered is what you do with 2 hex units. My feeling is as long as one of the hexes advances, it's fine. I will take that advance as it allows me a bit of a pivot. I like the idea. Not absolutely sure I got everything in the right place before, but that's some of the problem with wargaming. It's not an exact representation anyway, so sometimes, units popping up out of nowhere is okay. All right, let's go see if it's time to start. I think it is. Not start work, but starting work. And I woke up about an hour early today, so probably get 2 turns in. More detail here because all kinds of interesting stuff's happening. Not to pick up the tweezers by the pointy end again. And just put them aside for pointing. They're fine when I'm moving counters, but the disintegration of the Tartar side flank over here, well, it's beginning to reform. Still pretty heavy as we get closer to the center. The elephant is charging in. Now, the Janissaries, what they would have loved is the elephant not to have been screened and left out in the open. Then they would run out and hit it first because it's got lousy morale. They'll probably break it and rampage it, but it moved up carefully enough that it's actually able to make a charge. No special charge bonus marker or whatever. We also have full charges by 2 of the, I think these are, 2 plate infantry, cavalry with lances into the Serbs. We're going to see if we can collapse the Serbs here. And swarming in on them. They don't have a lot of, they just have the 1 leader, and then Bayezid's over here, so he could, presumably help with some of the end point units, but it's quite possible that the Serb flank could disintegrate. But there's a lot of hits on the Tartars right now. So I don't know how much of a chance they have of pulling this off. We'll take a look. We're going to see more than just archery fire. I'll probably come back for the melees because they promise to be interesting. Fire as usual because of the table, especially when there's any armor involved. Fairly minimal effects. You get some shots traded here. Things are going to be falling back, but especially over with the Serbs, not much going on. They did not break up the charges, though. All right, let's look at the elephant first. We've got an elephant versus plate infantry, male infantry. That only hits on a 2 through 4, which goes down to a 2. Oops. I thought that was going to be pretty good because it's so good against the horses. And if you remember from GBOH, horses don't like elephants or other games. And that all makes sense. Well, I wasn't thinking too carefully and thought the elephants were going to be a kick-ass thing. Guess we're going to see an elephant rampage. I thought it would be the thing that could break the Janissaries. It does not hit. Okay. We'll go back later. The charge. I really don't want to waste the charge on some crossbowmen. So I guess we'll hit this mailed cav. So I am plate cav versus male cav is 2 through 5. Now this is a charge with lance, so it goes up to 2 through 9, and there's a morale penalty if they hit. It is a hit. The morale penalty is 2. That gets me to a 1 on a B is enough to break them. It doesn't seem like that impressive an effect, but it's about the only thing that knocks this line apart. Because it is very tough. So again, 2 through 9. That's a hit. That's a good hit with a 1. That drops them all the way to a -1. But these are a morale. Ooh, those were plate. Did I hit? plate cav versus plate cav was only 2 through 4. Yeah, I hit. It was an 8 instead. And that hit means I get an R2, which is the maximum result I can get off that. So I did a pretty damn good job, considering. Now, there's no melee for the Ottomans except for these Janissaries against the elephant, and boy, was that a mistake. So I've got male infantry trying to hit elephants. That's a 2 through 6. They hit, they do 2 hits on an E is an R2. That does not send it into rampage yet, but it's going to go during the rout phase. Hope I remember that. Well, we're almost there anyway. Let's move on to the Ottoman side of things. Yeah, since we're watching. Might as well keep watching. We got our rallies. I'll jump back for the elephant. I'll be here. So for the elephant, he's got 2 route points to spend. One could be to here, but that throws him to the 3. I'm going to do that because that opens up less places where I'm going to hit my own units. And I'm probably not going to be able to bust through those Janissaries even if I hit them. What's nice is I'm facing forward. You know what? I'm just going to stand in place and take those 2 hits. All right. So 1 or 2, he tries to pivot that way. He can't. He actually can't pivot, so he's just going to hit the Janissaries no matter what, if I understand things correctly. Yeah, so no matter what, he's going to hit those Janissaries. I'm gonna do the shift, and now he's in route mode. And let's see. I guess we just hit him once. So we're elephants against Janissaries. It's 2 through 4. But it goes up to 2 through 5 between the wagon and rampage. Okay, this isn't as exciting as I thought it would be. I hit them, and I hit them hard enough to do damage. Now, this is a melee hit. Oh, geez. Before was a melee hit. This should have happened during the advance after combat stuff. So I hit them with a melee hit. They fall back, and they must fall back. The elephants I guess advance and destroy the wagon, and they remain routed like this. But now, during the rout phase, now they can actually rout, except they can't. They're still rampaging. Wow. Okay. Still no chance of swinging around, so it's elephants versus. So it's 2 through 7 now because they don't have the wagon anymore. Hey, the elephants are doing their job just by a random chance. I hit again. Okay, so this was really screwed up. Apparently, memory cards have a problem if you never formatted them right away, and mine degraded and I got cut off there. So I think I'm in the middle of this. I had to go answer some emails too, and as well as do the research to figure this out, and now I'm kind of out of time. But we had it do 1 pursuit and attack during the rout phase, during the immediate rout after the thing attacked. Now we're in the rout phase for, I hope it's the Ottoman turn. And this thing goes again. Now it still can't pivot. It's got too much in the way. So I'm not even going to roll for that. It's going to hit the Janissary again. I think I had taken care of all the other routes. So in this case, it's again an elephant against the male infantry. 2 through 4, that goes up to 2 through 7 for the rampaging elephant. No more wagon here. And that's a hit at maximal effect. Did I cheat? Probably. Why is this up to 4? Okay, I think what happened was I failed. I had already gotten the results because it couldn't have been up to 4 already. And it should be retreating again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now the elephant can chase it some more. That elephant's just going to be a problem behind the Ottoman line, so I definitely want to get some movement on it. But I'm not sure I want to keep chasing. Do I have an option? I don't know. I mean, it's a rampaging elephant. I shouldn't have an option. So we'll just keep rampaging in that direction. All right, now we go to the rest of the thing, and I hope I fixed whatever my memory card problem is. Basically what happened was like 9/10 of the memory was inaccessible. And it could just be old files that have been being stored and have cluttered things up, I'm hoping. But it happened just as I pulled out, I did a delete of files. I pulled out my little USB connection to my computer without safely shutting down. I'm so worried that I've like destroyed it because it's a huge card. It's the one I bought for my other camera and then said, I don't like the other camera, I think. Okay, we push into turn 7 after a lot of confusion, ending up doing this when I don't want to be doing it when I got other things to do. But all right. So actually a lot happened, and I didn't video very much of it. This guy's stuck here, and he's probably dead now. Make up for the Tartar who's been lost, and the losses are definitely beginning to tell against the Ottomans. Janissaries marched forward. They've got the wagon under them, but it's unlimbered. No, it's limbered, and so they actually got shot there. Let's see. The Sapphists of the port chased these guys away. I didn't completely pursue because I may want to do my mounted charge. And the more time I give, the better chance. But these guys are just going to run up within 2 and shoot me, so I guess it doesn't make a damn bit of difference. Got lucky. Had risked Sultan Bayezid himself here. These guys managed to kill the elephant. I had thrown these crossbowmen down to improve my odds a little bit, but I'm really not too happy with what my odds were. They were like probably around 50-50 in terms of killing it. And then over here, nothing really changed. I pulled some crossbowmen to try to cover from those plate cav, but I don't know how much that's going to do. It looks like the Serbians are collapsing, and that's a shame because they're really good troops compared. They've got the mail armor. That's the biggie. And elsewhere, though, there may be an overburden on the Tartars' command system. They have a lot of units en route. Of course, some of these units that look like theirs aren't. Those are Ottoman units that snuck around the back to get, to cause morale losses. All right, and that's it for now. Some anomalous situations that the system seems to be able to provide. I'll look in the rules and make sure if they really are. But here, and I'm in the midst of doing the route movement, we got 2 units both routing, and essentially this one has to go into one of these 2 hexes. This one has to go into this hex with one of its sides. Neither one can legitimately route without taking a penalty if they're done individually. if they're done simultaneously, you would think about it and they'd run into each other or something. So I'm going to look to see. I doubt there's anything on this, and my take on it is, my take when one unit is blocking another is you can demand that the unit that's blocking you move first if it's going to clear up the way. Again, I made that up. Okay, so actually the phasing player has to route first. That's interesting. So I've been violating the rules. So now the phasing player is the Tartars. I mean, it's not shocking that so he goes one out of the way this way and a second one here, and that clears the way for this guy. My view has just been, if they're both running, you know, in different directions, that's fine. Or if one's kind of blocking the other, but he can get out of the way. This gives a more precise rule that works. Made a couple of successful melees. One of them, the naphtha throwers, chased away some garbage, and then over here, this unit scared the crossbowmen, and in both cases they did an advance, not as far as this guy possibly could have. He doesn't want to get shot up. He wants something bigger in his way before that happens. So you can see there's a lot of routing going on. We'll handle the Ottoman side of this, and they're in kind of the ugly seat where they have to retreat first, and I'll follow the rules from now on. My interpretation, there's something interesting that can be done. I think I have a couple more movement on him, which is that you can route things in an offensive manner. So units here ran away. These guys have now squeezed him into place. So he comes down, that's one out of the way. Two out of the way. Oops, me there again. And 3, 4, he's fine. But if I had done it the old way, both units would have kind of routed. You know, there was a unit here that was kind of blocking and nothing in this way. So I could have routed away without getting in trouble here. Now, conceivably, I guess the old way there would have been a possibility that I generate the same kind of vile route situation. This comes here, 1, 2, just to get him out of the way again for next time, so that he's more likely to succeed in routing without falling apart. All right, on to the actual Ottoman movement. In attorney, we have the Serbs, I don't know, trying to redeem themselves somehow. Over here, a little bit of action, but really there's just so much that's routing on both sides that this battle has become, you know, it's kind of degenerated from a chaos of not being able to hit to a chaos of not being able to rally. The losses just accumulated over time, and you can see there's a lot of units that are in the dead pile too from being trapped places. And the Tatars are doing a pretty good job down here. Swept through one of the Serbian cav here. The prince and his cav got hit hard with the guards there, and he's not going to be off the map yet, but he probably will be very shortly. The prince will survive because he'll have potentially because he'll have a unit defending him. Over here, attempts to attack here and up here. Those mostly failed, although we do have some hits on those Janissaries. And the rest of the force, hey, they're sort of recovering. There's still losses coming off for the Tatars. Okay, Tartars. But it really looks to me like the significant quantity of losses is on the Ottomans. The problem is, I believe, the way the points are stacked. Nope, this one doesn't have stacked points. This has even points and even levels of victory. So this looks like it's going to be another Tartar victory. Like the historical. All right. That brings us to the close of the normal part of the battle. Now we're moving into the fatigue era. Yeah, the Prince of Serbia escaped. He didn't get hit again. He's only on a mail unit. The plate unit, the guards are up here. And what else to say? Except that it's time for the Tartars to hit. I mean, it's really, this is a strange scenario compared to the others, because you're likely to fire bows and not have too much of an effect on the opponent. But there's so many units compared to the leaders that are getting engaged that the casualties do mount enough that there's problems. Of course, the less units you have, the less casualties you take, right? Bonus. Okay, and not a whole lot of action took place in the first half of the turn. Remember, everything's slowed, so, I mean, I forget it, so I come streaming forward and then have to backtrack and figure out, yeah, I can't make all those clever attacks I thought I could. But the biggie is the Serbian guard got whacked, and that's pretty big. Other than that, I don't think anything too... Oh, this guy napped again. All right, and let's move on into the Ottoman turn, I guess. Push into the final turn of the game. Yeah, we got some problems. These guys are going to run off the map. I couldn't reach them in time. But anyway, what happened? Our Sapphists of the port chased down these cav archers and pushed them back. And the Janissaries pushed back some crap here as well. And that's really about it. There's so few pieces that can engage. And one of the problems at this point is the Ottomans can get knocked off the map fairly easily. These, units like this, they're in danger if I don't rally them. Well, he's not going to make it. But, like an extra hit against him or something, he'd be off the map. This guy is running off. This guy, if he wasn't recovering, would be running off the map. But to kill the Tartar units, you have to wipe them above 4 hits at this point, really. Because, if I hit this guy and get 1 hit on him, big deal. He just runs faster than I can chase him. And he's running faster than I can chase him anyway. But the point is, not much is going to leave the map. This guy's in danger. This guy probably is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, he's going off. If nobody runs down and gets him, and he's out of range. The leaders are slowed too. So, But the point is, whatever the Ottomans do down where they can do things, they're probably not going to gain any more points. Whereas the Tartars can gain more points, and you can see it looks unbalanced, especially if we look at the morale levels. Other than the leader, and they match that, really all of our stuff, the best thing we have here is a C. Now here we've got 3 Bs. There's going to be an A coming off the line here, and then some crap as well. But it's not just the numerical, it's the quality of what the Ottomans have lost is more important. And on this last turn, the Tartars managed to smack a couple of the bigger units that are left for the Ottomans. The Ottomans are almost out of an army here. The Tartars, maybe not, they don't look like they're in too bad a shape, to be honest. They still have, they're sort of classy units. With things like the Janissaries, hit. No, no, I guess not. That's one of them. There's the other one. No, they're still there too. So they still have some decent units left. And then these male cav are not bad either. And that hard to push away is that the Serbs disintegrated, and the Serbs are pretty decent units. We did get a hit on this, and what does that mean? That means very little. Unless another hit's gotten, it's not going to run from the map because it's not fast enough. So it's unlikely many more points are going to be showing up here. And I'm trying to optimize, like this guy shot over here because he's got an actual chance of maybe disintegrating that unit on some lucky rolls or something. On the final turn, the Serbs are at 4. I could shift as far as here. If I do, I leave this in place. These charge in. And there goes the prince captured as well. Come back with a quick point count. I got a lot of videos on this because it's actually broken into 2. I don't think it's a lot of time though. Less than an hour probably. I'll come back with that count once I'm done. Count came to like 98 to 33. I might be a little off, but I almost didn't count these guys, for example. But you can see, I mean, the Ottomans got hosed pretty hard here. This is the first battle, though, even with that differential, that was close enough to count, which is to say, the 2 other battles that, I may have counted on the Arthur one. No, I didn't have to. Arthur got wiped. I may have counted the points, but the 2 other historical battles, I ended up looking at the person who was favored to win the scenario was clearly way behind in points. So this one, it's a balanced scenario so that, 55 points or whatever difference, not remembering what the numbers I actually said were, is probably closer than any of the others, and it's still a pretty hefty differential in it. This is the one I feel is actually the most balanced of the scenarios. I find the other ones, the differential in favor of the historical winner seems to be too extreme. Obviously, if you wanted to balance these suckers, you could make a bid one way or the other as to how much you want to take a certain side, or you could play both sides and compare victory points. The problem with that, of course, is you show the other person how things are done for your side and not done in certain cases. Anyway, this is certainly, to me, the best of them. The one problem this one has is the color choice on the counters. It may not be so obvious with the camera, but I have a really hard time. The white on yellow, the blues on green. I have a lot of trouble seeing what's cav and what's not. And that's a pretty hefty differential. I wish they had chosen something a little bit more obtrusive. I don't feel like you particularly get a better view by not, in terms of the information you're presented, by not being able to tell, is that cav or is that infantry? And in this scenario, that seems particularly troublesome, and the color choices seem particularly more likely to be a problem. The main reason it's particularly troublesome is there's so many units that seem to have that same kind of differentiation. That are kind of, hey, this is cav and this is infantry, and they're not that different from each other in a lot of other respects. So like 6 movement point cav versus 4 movement point infantry may not be that clear to tell. The Bannockburn, was it? Yeah. No, maybe it was the Black Prince. Yeah, it was black prints. Had some crossbow units that don't look like crossbows. I couldn't tell. I think they were actually misprinted. All right, let's clear this up and I'll give a review of the overall system in a little bit.